Hi, folks. Welcome back to KCAA Radio. This is the Real Men of Real Estate radio show. And this is Patrick Franz. I'm your host today, known as the Note Mentor. And I have my guest with me today, Desi Arnaz. No, it's not the Desi Arnaz you know, the actor. It's Desi Arnaz, professional investor. And Desi was my mentor into the mortgage note investing space, and he was happy enough to come on as my guest today. If you're new listening, we were just talking about earlier why maybe folks that are real estate investors, perhaps folks that are landlords, may want to take a deep look into note investing as an alternative. And we were going over reasons on why maybe owning a note can be better than owning a rental property in some different ways. But we're back now, and I'd want to continue, Des, with maybe letting the audience understand a true note investment, right? So that they understand the idea of how it works. Can you give them maybe a true case study of a note that you might have held in your portfolio at one time?
Well, I still have one in my portfolio that I can share with you. I call it I like to give my notes a name, right? I call this one the story of the deadbeat daughter. Can I share that with you?
The deadbeat daughter. I want to hear this one.
Okay. Yeah. I bought a mortgage from a gentleman in Georgia. He had owned his own home for a while, and then he decided he was going to sell that home and move and retire. You know, that was his plan. Well, he had 5 children, but one of his daughters came to him and said, "Dad, sell me the house," right? And so he decided he would sell her the house. The house was worth about $130,000 or so. He sold it to her for 50 cents on the dollar. Is that a good deal?
Beautiful.
Beautiful deal.
Sounds like a nice pops.
He is. I think he is. Well, so she paid him about $65,000, $66,000 for that particular place. He gave it to her with no money down and a $400 a month payment. His plan was to use that $400 a month in retirement to subsidize his Social Security. Makes sense to me, right? Her only responsibility was to pay that payment every month. And she did that for 2 years. But after a couple of years, she stopped making the payments. And I know that when people invest in mortgage notes, that's their biggest fear. What if the people don't pay? And I'm going to just share with you how this stuff works so that you'll kind of get a better feel for it, and so will your listeners. Well, after a couple of years, she didn't pay Dad. And Dad got frustrated, and so he approached her and said, "Look, you need to pay." She still wouldn't pay. And so he went to an attorney, and he said, "Look, I want to shake her up. I don't want to foreclose on my own daughter, but I want to shake her up." And so the attorney said, "Here's all you need to do. If you file a foreclosure, she'll probably wake up, and she'll start paying you again. She'll see that you're serious. But you don't have to go through with the foreclosure. You can just cancel it." And so what Dad did, is he decided to go ahead and move forward with that idea. So he filed a foreclosure, but rather than the daughter paying up like you would think she would, she got upset with her dad and refused to let him see his grandchildren anymore.
Wow.
And refused to talk to him. Is that a deadbeat?
I'll tell you, it sounded like a really nice pops, and I don't know why. Well, yeah, I guess I understand why you call her the deadbeat.
That's why I called her the deadbeat daughter. I wish I could use her name. But never, of course. Well, here's what happened. Ultimately, Dad felt like he didn't want to deal with it anymore, and so someone brought him to me. The daughter at that time owed him $64,000. And she was supposed to be paying $400 a month. She was $8,000 behind in payments at the time that I bought the note. Mm-mm. And so I went to him and I said, "Look, I'll buy that mortgage note from you, but you need to understand that that's not my daughter. And I'm not going to cancel the foreclosure if she doesn't pay me. I'm going to take the house." And he goes, "Hey, you know what? I get you. Do what you need to do." And so I negotiated to buy that mortgage from him. And this is one of the key things that investors need to hear about. If you're in real estate, you're going to love what I'm about to say about when you buy a mortgage note. She owed $64,000 to her dad. I was able to buy that mortgage note for $47,500.
So wait, so the listeners understand. So what they call the unpaid principal balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the
what she owed on the
UPB
house
was how much? 67,000.
64.
64,000. So you were able to buy $64,000 worth of mortgage debt for how much?
$47,500.
Okay, so your investment to, I guess, what is that, debt ratio?
Pretty good.
Is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, continue, please.
Okay. Now, what that means is this. I paid less than what she owed me, right? Quite a bit less. if she had sold that house the very next day, she'd owe me $64,000. Plus, Patrick, she'd also owe me the $8,000 that she didn't pay her dad.
Mm-hmm.
That's owed to me too. I stepped into his shoes when I bought the mortgage from him. Okay?
Wow.
So here's what happened. When I bought the mortgage, I reached out to her, and I said, look, there's a new sheriff in town, honey, and I ain't your daddy. Okay? Immediately, guess what happened?
She woke up, I'm imagining.
She started paying me, baby.
Wonderful.
She started paying me. And so now here I am. I've got $47,500 invested. She also owed me $8,000 in arrearages. And over time, I put her arrearages on a separate payment schedule. So she was paying $400 a month on her regular payment, plus an additional $300 a month to get herself caught up. So I've got a $47,500 investment, and I'm collecting $700 a month on a $47,500 investment. Can you do that if you bought a piece of real estate where you have a $700 a month clear positive cash flow after paying your mortgage, after putting on the new roof and all? No, it doesn't happen.
And we just talked about that in an earlier segment, saying that, when you have a rental property, most of us don't have enough cash to buy the rental property, so you go get a mortgage loan to buy the rental property. And then the difference between what you owe monthly on the mortgage payment for the property and the rent you're collecting can sometimes be pretty slim, and one big project like a roof can take you out. So you're saying $47,000 invested. Mm-hmm. You're collecting $700 a month, what they call mailbox money.
Mm-hmm. Right.
What is the yield for the listeners on something like that, or the ROI on something like that?
It's enough.
It's enough.
Yeah.
It's enough. It's plenty enough.
Yeah.
And tell me about this, though. When we talked and we started the show, we talked about mortgage notes creating some sort of safety. Mm-hmm. And that is because there's a mortgage document that pledges the actual physical real estate as collateral to the lender.
Right.
Can you explain that a little bit? Because you said $47,000 invested. They owed you $64,000.
Right.
Yeah, but what was the house worth?
That real estate was appraised at $130,000.
I see.
So if she failed to pay me, I'm in the same position as Bank of America if she had failed to pay Bank of America. What can they do if you don't pay them?
Okay, so now you bought what we would call in the industry a non-performing note. We can't get into all the intricacies of those today on this show, but a non-performing note, meaning that the borrower living there was not paying their mortgage payment on time. They were in default, ready to be foreclosed upon, and you bought that thing.
Right.
Your result now is that you reached out to the borrower. She's now paying you on time every month, which becomes a performing note, and you're collecting that mailbox money and cash flow every month at quite a nice yield. Mm-hmm. But let's go ahead and tell these folks that performing note, when the borrower is living there and paying, you buy one of those notes rather than buying a rental property because you want to collect that stress-free cash flow and not have to repair the roofs and such, right? I love what you always say, which is the top 3 most possible scenarios that could happen.
Yes.
So if somebody buys one of these mortgage notes and holds a mortgage note in their portfolio, they're collecting that cash flow, what are these 3 things that you always talk about that may happen?
Well, when you are owed money, there's basically 3 things, whether it's a mortgage or whatever. If someone owes you money, either they're going to pay you like they're supposed to, maybe they'll pay you early or they won't pay you. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's pretty much it, right? And with mortgages, here's what I love about it. With mortgage notes, if they pay you like they're supposed to, then you're going to make a really nice return. That's that $700 a month that I'm talking about.
For quite a few years. I mean, I take it sometimes you're buying someone's mortgage where they still have 20, 25 years left to pay.
Yes, exactly. And she had 26 years left to pay when I bought this mortgage. Okay.
So if scenario 1 happens, this means that someone would just simply stay in the same house. They would just be paying their same mortgage payment on time every month for 26 years. They would never refinance. They would never sell and move. Nothing would ever happen. That would just go on for 26 years.
Yeah.
But if that scenario happened, then you're collecting this amazing amount of monthly cash flow, stress-free for 26 years, getting a nice yield on your money annually.
Correct.
Amazing.
Correct. Yeah.
So, folks, if you want to know more about what we're discussing here on this show, more about note investing, you're welcome to reach out to me personally. My phone number is 619-520-0073. I'm always willing to give, say, a free 10, 15-minute phone call. And that is, again, 619-520-0073 if you want more information about note investing. If you want to get a hold of Desi, my mentor, I know he's even got a coaching group we're going to talk about here later in this show. But if you want to get a hold of Desi, go ahead and give him your phone number.
Well, the best way to reach me, Patrick, is at 951-551-0087.
951-551-0087.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. I've had that number a while. So it's 951-551-0087.
Folks, that's how you can get a hold of Desi. He offers a coaching group. He's willing to give free phone consultations to anybody that wants to learn this stuff, and so you can get a hold of us that way. But let's go ahead and continue then, Des. So if somebody bought one of these mortgage notes, one thing that could happen is they pay on time forever until the thing pays off.
Right.
Not so bad.
Right, not so bad.
What about 2 and 3?
Well, let's look at option 2. Maybe they pay me early, right? Because most people sell their homes or move to a new location or refinance their properties within 5 to 10 years, right? Most people do, at least once. So let's just say in this particular example here, where there's a $64,000 balance, let's say 5 years in, she decides to sell her house. Maybe they have another baby or whatever, and they want a bigger place. So I will have already collected 5 years of payments, right? And her base payment was $400 a month, roughly $5,000 a year. So for 5 years, I would have collected, in that particular scenario, a minimum of, $25,000.
Sure. 25 grand cash flow came in during the 5 years you held on to the note.
Right. But $25,000 did not come off her balance because most mortgages are written so that most of the payment in the early years is what?
Oh, goodness gracious, folks. It's anybody on this call knows, Des, because we're always the borrower, right? So anybody on this call knows if you've had a mortgage loan and you start making your mortgage payment on time in the beginning of your loan and you're looking at your statement going, I've been paying my mortgage payment on time this entire time and my balance that I owe the bank ain't going anywhere.
Right. Balance hardly goes down, right? And so that's what happens. Out of that $25,000, about $5,000 of that is actual paying down her house. The other $20,000 is profit for me. So she would still owe me $59,000 after
those 5 years.
After 5 years. Remember, I only paid $47,500.
Right. So, folks, he's in for $47,000. He's owed on paper $65,000 or so. And after Desi would collect monthly payments by holding onto that mortgage note in his portfolio for 5 years' time, he would have collected back $25,000. Only $5,000 or so has come off of the unpaid balance that the borrower owes. And that's called amortization, isn't it?
Right.
We all know how bad amortization is when we're the borrower.
It's great when you're the lender, though.
Sure is, I guess.
So she would still owe me $59,000. That's how much I would get on the payoff. So I don't know the math, but I know that the return, when I've done the math in the past, that return works out to be somewhere right around 20%.
Yeah, we don't even like to talk about those types of returns with notes because people think we're pulling their leg, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
So that's a beautiful thing. And then the third thing that can happen, what can happen if
people don't pay?
Okay, so that's what can happen, right? Third thing is someone who's a homeowner living in the house, paying their mortgage payment on time every month, can become delinquent, right? They can stop paying their mortgages. Everybody always asks us, Des, well, what happens if they stop paying you?
Right. That's the big question, and that was my big fear, too, at the very beginning. But what I found out is that it's actually not a bad thing. Okay, if she stops paying me, for me, I have options under the law. And the one option is I could just forgive the arrearages. I could say, look, if you'll get back on track, I'll just wipe out all the back payments that you missed. Now, that ain't going to happen with me, okay? But I know some lenders
usually
would do
doesn't
that.
happen with Bank of America or Chase or anything else either.
No, they're not going to wipe it out, but that's an option. A better option for me is to say, look, let's do a loan modification for you. If you can get back on track, I'll take those payments that you missed. We'll put them on the back end of the loan, and you just start making your payments again. So we extend her loan out for some more months. But if she still doesn't cooperate, I always have the option of just taking the house. Kind of like the repo man can take your car if you don't pay your car payment, right?
Ah.
Yeah, I can just take the house. Now, remember, the house is worth $130,000. I'm into this thing for $47,500. You think I'll do okay if I take the house?
It sounds like you're in a pretty protected position.
Yes. That's why I love having collateral, and that's why I have invested in stocks, I have invested in gold, I have invested in other things, commodities. Nothing has collateral, and this does. That's why I want people to know about this.
I wanted people to know that, Des, because that's why we say you can get safety, because the money is backed by physical real estate. You have safety position there, right? You have a steady yield, because no matter what happens with the stock market or the real estate market, they still have to pay that same $500 a month. That's their mortgage payment regardless each month, correct? So
Hers
the
is
cash
$400,
flow
but yeah.
stays consistent, or $400. And at the same time, folks, you have the mailbox money, that cash flow that hits the bank that you can use or reinvest and compound. Awesome. So, folks, it's time to take another quick commercial break. You're listening to the Real Men of Real Estate radio show on KCAA with your host, Patrick Franz, the Note Mentor. Don't go anywhere. We're going to come right back with Desi Arnaz, professional investor.